Thank you, and welcome everybody to the Yorktivist Film Festival. Special thanks to the panel tonight for coming up to lead what I'm sure will be an amazing discussion. I will let you introduce yourselves. This is a great honor to have you all tonight, and I hope you all enjoy the session.
Great, thank you, Vanessa, and thank you for having us. So my name is Kyveli Lignou-Tsamantani, and I'm an art historian, and I work at the University of York. And if Emilie, you want also to introduce yourself, and we can introduce Amel, and then we can have a short introduction.
Okay. Hi, lovely to be here. My name's Emilie Flower. I'm an associate at the Centre for Applied Human Rights at the University of York. And Kyveli's already introduced herself. She's an associate lecturer at the University of York Art History Department. And today we're joined by Amel Alzakout, who is the co-director of the film Purple Sea, which many of you will have seen over the last few days. It's been available through the Yorktivist Human Rights Film Festival. And it's a film that's made from images filmed by Amel after the boat on which she was fleeing Syria in 2015 sank near Lesbos. So we're really grateful to Amel for joining us today to talk about the film. It's a really amazing film, and I hope most of you have seen it. So just to give you a little background about Amel before we go into talking about the film and our conversation. She was born in 1988 in Syria. She's an artist and filmmaker based in Leipzig. And between 2010 and 2013, she studied journalism at Cairo University in Egypt. And between 2017 and 2018, she studied art at the Weisinger Art Academy in Berlin. And currently she's studying media art at the Academy of Visual Arts, HGB in Leipzig. Purple Sea is her debut film. Previous work includes Stranger Diaries, in 2019 made with Khaled Abdulwahid. It's an 8-channel video installation, and Home Sweet Home, made in 2020. So Purple Sea won the film prize at the Robert Bosch Stuyvesant, Best Film Award at the Human Rights Film Festival, Inconvenient Films, Youth Jury Prize at Filmmaker Festival, Honourable Mention of the International Competition Jury at the Doc Point Helsinki, and LB Doc Award in 2021. So you can see that it's been a well-recognised film. Before starting our discussion with Amel, we thought we might start by briefly introducing why we chose this film. So I'll hand you over to Kyveli for that, and then afterwards I'll just show you a minute from the film so that you can get a sense of the aesthetics of it before we begin our conversation. Okay, so I'll hand back to you, Kyveli.
Thank you, Emilie, and a warm welcome to Amel. So this film has been at the kind of in my mind, at the background of my thinking for quite a while, since I first read about it in 2020. As my research field looks at representations of atrocities and ethical issues in contemporary art and visual culture. So the issues of visibility that this film is touching upon felt extremely relevant and important to be discussed. So for quite a while we have been saying with Emilie how we could arrange to have this film being screened in York. One of the most interesting things for me about the film is the fact that it very poetically, I think, encapsulates a whole array of issues around the visibility of this contemporary crisis. We always need to be careful about the term crisis in the Mediterranean. While in some ways, I think it also provides a very powerful artistic visual counter to realistic representations. So let's watch the short extract that will help us to delve into our discussion.
Okay. So Amel, we've just seen a moment from the film. I think most of the people here have seen the film, so they'll know that this is what much of the film is like. We're really immersed in this moment in your life when you were stranded in the Mediterranean with a group of people. So we thought perhaps we could begin just by, could you help us to sort of to put this in context in terms of, you know, what's the context in which you made this journey, and how did you come to be here at this time?
Thank you, Emilie, for the introduction, and I'm happy to be with you. It was in 2015 when I took the decision to take the boat and the smuggling way back then. I think it's not only back then, it's still going for now. And I was living in Turkey for 2 years after I left Syria in 2013, as like many others, for war, and because of the war and because of political reasons. In Turkey, we couldn't settle. I was there and I met my partner Khalid and the co-director of Purple Sea there in Istanbul. So there was no way to stay there. There was no way to be like refugee situation in Turkey. It's not that easy. So you are not you are recognized, but you don't have paper. You are recognized, but you don't have paper to work. You don't have like basic things to just continue. So we knew that we cannot stay there. And in 2015 February, Khaled got an invitation from the Berlinale doc station in Berlin. He was working on a documentary film back then, and he went, and we decided like it's you got there and you have to stay there, and I have to find now a way to be with you. So I applied twice for a visa, and it was rejected twice. So there was no other way actually. Then I just everybody around me was taking the same route, so I decided that I would go by the Mediterranean. And I mean, it was very easy to find a smuggler. Of course, it wasn't that hard. So I took the decision, and it was almost, I mean, it was almost winter. It was in October, and it wasn't recommended to travel, but I sell everything at my apartment, and there was no really way to stay. So I took the trip, but while I was preparing for this trip, I had the feeling that I need to document it just for myself. And I also wanted to show it to Khalid later, because he really wanted to be with me. And even he thought that he will come back. And I mean, since the revolution started in Syria, documenting your daily life was something really normal. Everybody's doing that, because you don't know what's happening, what's coming. And I was doing this in Turkey as well, and even like during the demonstration in Turkey. So I was doing something really normal for me. I took all the things that I have at home, like my mobile phone, a small camera, and I had the waterproof camera for us. And actually, it's the funny thing that the waterproof camera belongs to Khalid, and he bought it to film demonstrations in Syria, and he never did. He was there, he never did. And he just came back, and I found it. I told him, okay, I think I might take it just in case, for like battery or something. So it was really like also it was a very good distraction to me in a way, because the trip before like the road trip itself, it was almost 16 hours long, and it's exhausting, and you need to be busy doing something. So yeah.
Did you, I mean, you ended up with all, as you say, you had so much footage of your experience, and it sounds like, you know, you had so much, so you must have ended up with so many rushes of so many different things. So what was it that motivated? I mean, obviously we know that in this incident, you know, 43 people died. We're talking about a very serious incident. What was it? You must have found yourself with these rushes. What motivated you to turn that into a film? And what, you know, can you remember whether you knew what type of film you wanted to make with it, or, you know, where was that coming from for you?
First, because the filming was unintentional. When I was filming the road, as I said, but the moment I took, like, the boat collapsed, the camera was attached to my wrist, and there was no way that I could control it. I've seen it filming. I could spot, because it doesn't have, it's very small, and it doesn't have a screen on it. So, but I saw a small light, and I saw that it's filming. After I was rescued, I stayed 2 weeks in Athens, and then I reached Berlin, and I couldn't wait to see what the camera has filmed, because I really couldn't imagine. And for me, it wasn't shocking. I mean, of course, it was somehow shocking in a way that it's not my perspective. It's like it's someone else's perspective, but it's not even a person. I mean. And I wanted to see that perspective, but also I wanted to see if something matches with what I've experienced on that day. So I couldn't wait. I was rushing, looking for small details that I remember, and but I couldn't sit and watch them, you know, slowly. Like I just skipped. And for Khaled, for instance, it was different. He couldn't watch them. It took him a year. But when I saw them, I felt like that I have an evidence with me, and I have the urge, I have the anger, and I need to do something with them. So first thought was just to go to the court with it, not to make a film, of course, but we were lucky to we knew forensic architecture. Khaled was in connection with them through a project, and we thought that their way of working, how do they analyze, how do they construct and deconstruct the scene, is really, this is what we want, because I wanted to blame someone. And of course, I mean, everybody, it's easy to say the smugglers, because for me, it was obvious that the smugglers knew what's happening, but and they are so bad, but they are not the ones to blame, like for all the whole this incident, because many people were, I mean, we weren't there, and many like Frontex was there from the very beginning, and the Norwegian boat, and they were watching. Nobody. So 43 people wouldn't die if somebody just like really helped more faster. Yeah, and this urge led to a collaboration with the forensic architecture on a different film. But I think with this, there was still something that is very important to talk about, which is the media image, the media representation. How is the media using refugees in their daily news? So this was another part that we needed to talk about, because also, like, feeling that you are there in front of people. And I knew that this incident, it was like somehow it got a lot of press around it, and everybody wrote, there's even images about it. And so just imagining yourself in such a situation, and for me it's very humiliating in a way, like and it's not helping. This is the problem, like it's not really making any difference. And I know this from Syria. Every time there is a massacre, we say that something will happen, of course, because we see horrible images that are coming from there, and it's really, I mean, it's a very, very bad. I mean, I know it's very good also to document, because this is the only way, but the way they are showing it, it's not the best, I think, for the people. So we had this question in mind, how to talk about what happened, and the first thing came that we need to speak from the individual experience, and from a personal experience, from an individual experience, not because it's Amel. We are not talking here about Amel. We are talking about one person who had a significant experience that could be anybody's else. So yeah, this was maybe, sorry, I talked a lot about the intention. It was a bit complicated.
There's so much in there, exactly. I mean, I've got a question leading on from that about the form you chose in the end, but I could hand over to you, Kyveli, if you've got some questions that you want to pick up on there.
I was wondering, you have spoken in the past about this idea of the camera perspective, because you have the camera attached to your wrist, and also you have made about the underwater and how the actual action was, of course, above the water. And I was wondering whether you could speak to us a bit about that, because it's quite a strong representation that we have in this film of the situation.
Yeah, true. I mean, the film almost based on the underwater images, which is mostly, I mean, it's less than the above water footages, like the raw material, and there was also the road material, but it was, I mean, with the incident itself, nothing was important before or after. So also this was a clear decision that we want this moment only, like what's happening in the sea, not before, not after, not the road trip even comparing to it. With the underwater footages, it was also very, very, it was a team decision that we don't want to show faces, because this is one thing that we really, I mean, I personally felt hated to see myself in the water, and I think other would feel the same. And yes, it's not helping. And we thought it's like the underwater footages wasn't, in a way, it wasn't a solution for not using the above water images, because they really had very strong I don't know, I cannot find the word in English, strong aesthetic themselves, because it's not nothing. You are seeing bodies, you are seeing things that you could easily connect with without you needing to see the face. So it was really very important to show it. There was a great work from the editor Philip Schaffner on the image. It looks like one image, and it's not. It's really, there is a lot of editing in between. But yeah, we tried. I mean, he tried a lot to cut out the faces and to create this balance between above and under the water. Yeah. Also the underwater. This is another thing that we figured out during the process, which is when we were seeing the images, the underwater images, and the space started to open more for the text. It was really starting to give me and Khaled more freedom to write for the form. It started to be more poetic, and we really, I mean, when we had the complete vision of the image, then the text started to be quickly developed.
So Emilie, maybe we can discuss a bit also the script, I think.
Yeah, I was I mean, when I Amel, I have a filmmaking background, so when I watch things, I'm thinking, why did they edit it like this? Why did they chuck this? Why did they keep that? And you've just been explaining that, obviously. And yeah, as you say, I mean, you don't notice what's been removed, you notice what's there when you're watching, and you have ended up with a very poetic piece. And I noticed at the, you know, you provide, despite everything that you've been saying about, you know, your strong feelings about the way that things are represented and who to blame, who not to blame, or, you know, issues of blame, basically. But none of that is in this film. You know, you give us the raw experience, you give us the raw moment. There's no contextual information at the beginning. And then you align it with this script that you've written. So I just wondered whether you can tell us some more about why you chose to do that, you know, to, in the end, with all of this, these views and these rushes, you've given us this one take, as it were, this one take poetic film. So what was the process of ending up with that?
It was simply to distance myself from the person who is in the water. This was very important. I didn't want to talk about what happened exactly, because it's not, I mean, it's an informative way to tell people what happened, and it's easy to tell that, but I'm also an artist, and I didn't want to be there while telling the story. So it was very important to tell it from when I got rescued. I mean, like, to decide that we are telling it from the present. We are in Berlin after 5 years of the incident. And it was also like the funny thing that at the beginning I had a problem saying I, like the form of the this, because I felt like I'm emphasizing more on me, Amel, the one who, and then it really, I said no, this is not what I want. But and the same happened with the narration. It was like, no, I'm not going to narrate this. It wouldn't happen. But then when we decided to go back, to bring old memories, to somehow, we said, how could it be the situation of someone in the water? What do they think of? What is more important for them, to them? And of course, it's we cannot say this and this, but everyone has their own experience, and we decided to go back to like precious memories, to write it from there. And it really helped a lot, because it's not that we are talking about what happened, but we are kind of viewing the whole life of someone who was there, because it matters. It's not, I also didn't want to be shortened to this person. I had life before, and I will keep having life. Other people, unfortunately, didn't. But it was really great to start writing the memories. It's all real memories, but there's also fictionized parts in it. Because of course you cannot remember what did you think back then, but you bring something. So I think the memory, it's it's layers over layers. And for instance, the frog poem, it exists. I wrote it when I was 6 and I love it, but I couldn't remember anything of it except for the knock knock, like the only one. So we had to rewrite it. Yeah, so at the end, we felt, both me and Khaled, that we had really bigger space than the incident, and the eye started to give me a distance that I started to see her like I really refer to her. It's not me anymore. And the you also, the you is Khaled, the partner who's waiting, and the you is of course the spectator. Yeah, so is how it was.
Because you leave us in this very, like, in a huge space between the two, between these sort of very poignant memories, and then these very practical thoughts. As a spectator, you're sort of in that kind of poetic space, but then you're also thinking, how close is that land, and I wonder if people kick their shoes off or not. These kind of really straightforward practical thoughts in response to what we're seeing visually. Were you aware that that was the kind of thing that people might be thinking, that they might be putting themselves in the shoes? Was that a kind of, I guess, a choice to try and help them to empathize more?
I hope it was like this, and
Well,
without just forcing people to yeah, I mean, feelings is something that you cannot force people to do. So the least I think we wanted to do in the film is just to connect with people.
yeah.
Yeah, based on their experiences, not on one experience.
Yeah. Kyveli, did you have I think you probably want to have a question.
Yes, because I found very, very interesting, and we discussed before also with Emilie, because we were watching it together, and how you have created the script, this IU, and how you kind of position yourself outside of yourself. But then at the same time, what I think is very interesting in this work is how you have managed to tackle all of the ethical problems that emerged during the spectatorship and creation of this kind of imagery. So do you think that the fact that it is in your wrist, it's essentially you are capturing other people's suffering while you're capturing your situation, your own distress? Part that solves the ethical ramifications that we might have with creating such images. And you have this very, very interesting part in the script that you talk about the helicopters. Was that an actual moment, or was it because you said that you added some fictional parts?
I mean, fictional in a way that we needed to put it together, in a way to put things together, not to recreate things or create things that doesn't exist. The helicopter moment, actually, it was really very, very important to me, because it was the moment when I saw the camera filming from inside the helicopter. And it was the only moment where I raised my hand with the camera, because I was really frustrated. They were like railing, I'm not sure if it's the right word, around above our heads for a really long time. And you had, everybody was asking why they are not doing anything. And the other, like Frontex, was doing the same. And of course they belong, both of them, to Frontex. And you just start like feeling what are they doing and why they are filming, what could they really gain from filming right now. And while people are next to me are, some of them were frustrated until they drowned themselves because they couldn't wait anymore. So of course this matters a lot. And I just didn't want to just tell somebody one time, describe it as romanticizing. Purple Sea is a romanticizing film, and I really like it because he meant it in a negative way, but I think it's the most true description. It's romanticizing, and this is the most important thing to me. We are romanticizing about our life, about our memories, about everything, and this is a big thing. It's even bigger than putting the things in a political context, direct political context. So and there is the political context, of course, as you said, in the when we thought about the helicopter. So it's simply that you think of these images, where did they go, and how we end up in such, like, in the media. Or so yeah, it's a big question. Actually, it's a big question even for the film because when you, I mean, of course you also feel frustrated with, like, what's now. I mean, the film is there and it's in the archive. It's very important because it was a part of dealing with what happened, of course. But yeah, you then ask what it did actually. And yeah, it's, I think, an open question for this.
Thank you for that. I think it also kind of links with what you mentioned before about how Khaled, your co-director and partner, and you have mentioned in the past in other interviews, how you started watching the material quite sooner than him, and how for him it was very difficult to look at the footage. So I was wondering whether you also think that this has to do with the issues of mediating an event, and whether for you it was also a processing of the event in different ways.
I think I wish Khaled was here. He could tell his point of view better. But I from what we also talked about a lot, it's for him it was. I mean, he didn't live the experience, so he couldn't see it. For me, the footage was nothing. But also he wanted to come closer, and the film was his way to come closer to what happened and to relive what he really missed. And for me, I wanted to get some distance, and for each of us it played differently, but it played for our for good. I mean, for the best. I think. Yeah.
Amel, I mean, I wonder whether we should invite people to put their questions in, actually, because otherwise we'll completely hog you. So I don't know if perhaps people could put things in the chat. Kyveli, is that what we had in mind?
Yes, if anyone wants to unmute themselves, they can ask their questions. It's up to how people feel more comfortable, I guess.
I'll just see if anybody's unmuted, and if not, I will ask another question, which I have. Perhaps you could, if someone wants to ask a question, you could put it in the chat, and in the meantime, I'll just ask you, Amel, you did a collaboration with Forensic Architecture in the end, didn't you? And they've used this film and this footage in a very different way, you know, in a much more, as you say, like, that it's evidence, isn't it? It's not a romantic take. It's a really, really, you know, it's kind of an explanation of what happened, using a lot of these different films that were taken on that day, using up the different evidence. Do you think, I mean, are you reaching the same audience with those different pieces of work, or was that part of you trying to reach a broader audience? Or, I mean, I don't know if you've had any feedback on, you know, the different responses to the different types of films. And you mentioned I mean, I hate, I don't want to use the word impact, but I do, I suppose, because that's what we're talking about is, you know, did you want to have different kinds of impacts and reach different types of people with the different films?
It's a good question. Thank you. I think because at the beginning we didn't thought of an audience, like we thought our audience would be the same, but actually it's not. I mean, later you discover just there are people who are interested in what it's called like activism films. So and they like, although purposely was one of the activist like human rights festivals, but still it's hard. I mean, with all these genre, and it's really hard to decide how people perceive the film. But I had the feeling that it was really important to collaborate with forensic, because also people had the right. We in the first place, and people have the right to know what happened. And of course we still don't know the truth, but we knew a lot, which it's now more clear. So when forensic decided to work on the investigation film, it was really a great relief, because then we were able to work on Purple Sea. We knew also we couldn't. I mean, it's not our specialty to do an investigation film, so we won't do that. But we knew that it's really important to make both. But audience, I think, I mean, we got kind of. I mean, the investigation film has their very also. Big reputation, and I think it's really good. It's a good film.
It's I mean, it's great being able to see both, isn't it? And these very, very different styles. I mean,
actually sometimes we show them together. I mean, we ask to show them together most of the times because we think it's also a good idea.
Yeah, I can see why it really works. And I suppose there's a question also, Amel, that I wanted to ask about what you're doing next. I mean, you know, are you going to make any more films now? Are you going to use a different form? What's happening next?
Yeah, hard question, because I am studying now. I'm studying media art at the Kyveli. I'm doing my school work, of course, like projects, but I also have on the side my project, which is called On the Side, actually, and it's different. It's just like it's of course not Purple Sea, and it's hard actually to start a project after Purple Sea. It's really hard because I mean, it's not that this is the way that you work. It's something that came out of urge. So it will be different, not Hollywood, of course, different, but I mean different in the theme also. Yeah, I mean, it's still hard to talk about it because it's still really in the early process. Yeah, and there are some other small projects, but for later. And now with the corona, it's really still hard to do everything.
Yeah, it's hard to realize things, isn't it? We've got a question that's come in from Oliver and it's a good practical question. He says he's sorry it's so simple, but I'm sure we all want to know, which is he's asking, have you seen, have you always, how did you manage to have a full battery in your phone and your camera?
Good question. Yeah. In my phone, it's different. I filmed the road with on my phone, and also with the waterproof, because it was also easy to hide it in front of the smugglers. and the camera in the water didn't, it was going on and off all the time. Even when, for instance, forensic got the footage, they had to really locate the time because it has the on and off is a slider button. And whenever my hand bump into something, it goes on and off. So it's not that long duration. And even when I got rescued there was still battery. And yeah, it wasn't very, very long duration. I think almost less than 3 hours in the water. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And then Simon Lord has asked a question. Did you consider using any of your footage before you were in the water? For example, getting onto the boat, being on the boat, getting to safety?
I'm not sure if I understood it well. Is it like, do you mean for safety reason or in general? Because I have never thought I would make a film or anything. I just really wanted to keep it for myself. So there was no intention to produce anything out of the footages. Yeah.
Probably.
And then I think maybe if the question led somewhere that if there was no accident, I'm pretty sure I won't do the film. Of course not. I mean, if the trip was, yeah, a good trip. Yeah.
But I guess this question also links again to the issue of the faces that you already talked about.
Yeah.
And how you tackled that. So I think another question that we both had with Emilie was the issue of the temporality during the spectatorship. So it feels, it's not, but it feels as a consequent long shot with a voiceover that would, your spectators don't really see something changing. It could feel as if it's like a static image almost, which is not. So I don't know, we both found very interesting how this idea of the temporality plays very differently whether you see the film in a big screen, in a projection, or whether it is through a computer. Have you, I know that the film, the debut was in the beginning of 2020, so afterwards it was the pandemic.
Directly, actually. So we had the premiere and then Corona came directly.
So did that change how you, probably, had you decided that you wanted to screen it in different ways and then you had to adapt to the situation? But do you think that it's a more ideal environment for watching the film?
Yeah, I think it's more ideal. moment. دقيقة بس دقيقة واحدة. Yeah, we have to continue like this. بس خليني نحكي, okay?
You can join us for the last 5 minutes, Kanti.
Yeah, so we were talking about the screening form. Definitely, we always prefer to screen it in festivals and in big screens in person. Yeah, of course, we needed to adapt to the situation, and we also thought a lot about like a small screen, and in purposely the image is important, the details in the image are important. Also, the sound is very important as well. So we were always wondering how it will be for someone to watch it on the laptop or something. But of course, I mean, we are satisfied wherever people see it, except for the phone. But it's just like, yeah, it gives you different feelings. Even for me, I mean, lately I'm not like Is it free? Could you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. I mean, I usually don't go a lot to watch the film. I come to the Q&A directly, but it's really different. It's different when someone is watching and you feel the time differently. So, yeah.
Amel, we've got one last question and then we'll let you get back to your family. But Simon asked again, what's been the response of other refugees to the film?
Good question, because there is only one friend of mine who watched it. I mean, a refugee who we traveled together. But I haven't. I mean, I don't have connection with other refugees who were on the same boat, or other boats. I mean, I know refugees in general, my friends and in the school, and yeah, I mean, I know that usually a refugee tends to not watch it because, of course, it's still, people are sometimes still not prepared for such an experience. So I think it's different from a refugee to a refugee.
Different from one person to the next. There is actually one last question. Someone asked, did the idea of shooting come to you in the water, or had you planned to actually shoot the trip? Perhaps they missed the beginning of your talk.
Okay.
Perhaps we could just briefly answer that.
Yeah, sure.
And then I think there's another question. Should I say that one too? Which was, I'm curious how it is to reflect on an experience like this in an artistic context, having to talk about the artwork when of course for you it's also a very intimate story. Yeah.
I cannot see the question, you say, but it's fine. I mean, so to get back to the filming, no, I meant to film the trip for myself, to keep it as to document it for myself, because it wasn't a normal trip. I mean, even a normal trip you will document sometimes, but it's not a normal trip, and I was just filming to also share it with my partner. And on the road from Istanbul to Izmir, which is 15 hours or 16 hours almost, I filmed intentionally. I was holding the camera, I was hiding it from the smugglers, but from the moment that the boat collapsed, the camera was out of my control, and it was my hand that was under the water most of the time. And if it's above the water, then it's moving a lot, and you cannot, it's not that I couldn't focus on the camera, of course, in such a situation, except for the helicopter shot, which I was frustrated, and I just raised my hand without knowing even if it's really on or off. But yeah. And the other question, sorry,
I guess the other question is about this distancing, you know, reflecting on the difference between talking about it in an artistic context and yet it having been your own intimate story. How you feel about that?
It's also a good question, because it's hard, of course. I mean, it's hard to talk about it artistically, because it's all connected, and yeah, it's in a way it's really not easy to tell the story itself, but you want also to tell your choices on doing the film, and this is I sometimes try to cover all, because also it's hard for people to imagine, for instance, the intention of filming. It's both is related to the film and to me personally as someone living the experience. So yeah, I think I try to cover most of the questions while talking about the film, but I won't say that I could. I think I That's all. Yeah, no, I cannot just talk about it artistically. It's hard.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, maybe we can wrap it up here. Thank you very, very much, Amel, for joining us. And thanks everyone for attending this event. The festival is going on until Friday, if I am right. Is that right, Vanessa? Okay. So you can book your tickets via the website of the festival. And thank you very much for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amel. Thanks for
Kyveli
sharing
and
so
Vanessa,
much.
thank you, really. And thank you everyone for coming and joining us.